All right, episode 5 of The Last of Us is now underneath our belts. Chris and I just finished watching this with lunch. This is the review. I don't do spoiler free. If you haven't watched it yet, pause, go away, come back. That's the only spoiler warning. 5, 4, 3, 2. I like the fact that they have changed the timelines a little bit with things. This is one of the greater aspects of a television adaptation over like a film adaptation, because with a film adaptation they would have less runtime and they would have to keep it closer to the actual video game to make it more concise. But here they have room to expand upon things, and they're really sort of breaking down the show and telling a similar story but in a greatly expanded format. So the big reveal in this episode was the fact that the spores are airborne. Now it's treated differently in the game. You kind of know that from the beginning. But here, what they did in season one was they introduced the tendrils, and the tendrils have been sort of the growing, pun intended, the growing threat. Is that the tendrils can go lots of places and they can sense movements and so on and so forth, and that's what directs the hordes. But with this episode, we start off with this scene where apparently there was this patrol for the wolves that got lost in a basement, just disappeared. And as we deal with this not interrogation, a debrief between two of the military commanders for the wolves, we realize that um, there was a group of scouts that got completely lost down in the basement section of this. I think it was I can't remember if it was a hospital building or something, but completely got lost down there. And over the radio revealed that they were all coughing and choking and dying because of spores. Now that's important because the way they did this was to when when the reveal happens later. I got to get to the reveal. It'll make sense in a minute. Hang on, let me backtrack. So that's like how the episode starts off, and then we have Ellie and Dina basically trying to figure out how to get to where they need to go to get revenge. They're planning out a route. They go on the route. Things go sideways. They get into a room where they find some of one of the smart ones, and they think there's only one. It turns out to be more than just one, and they're getting overwhelmed. And as they're getting overwhelmed, there's a moment where, as they're here getting overwhelmed, Dina's in the corner. Ellie's fighting them off. Jesse shows up, who is the husband of Dina's, well, not husband, the father of Dina's baby, and it says that Tommy's with him. Now this brings us back to, I remember in the first game, Tommy had in the game, Tommy had gone ahead, and in this case, they're bringing Tommy in behind. So we're gonna get back to Joel's brother being here, which is really cool. This leads them on this escape. They end up in the park. This is, as I remember correctly, sort of true to the game, because in the park is where we meet the seraphim, I think is what they're called, um, the scars, and they are torturing someone, and they realize that they're there. They start shooting arrows. Dina gets hit in the leg. Jesse and Dina bail while Ellie draws them off, and this is where we get this pursuit through um, the woods, and then she ends up in this room where she finds Nora. And this brings us back to the reveal, because the confrontation here between Nora and Abby, not only just the confrontation, it's not Abby, sorry, Ellie. My brain is all over the place because it's been a long day, a long weekend with all the Dune Awakening stuff. When Ellie gets in the room and she finds Nora and she's talking to her, um, and Nora is like basically screw you, throws something in her face, alcohol in her face, and starts to run off. And as she's running, she's like, intruder, intruder, shooter, shooter, and she's running off down these hallways. And Ellie's chasing after her, and she gets to a place where she's basically dead ended, and her only escape is through this elevator shaft. She jumps in the elevator drops, and boom, we're on B2, which is the level where the Lost Patrol um, was last known to be, and the spores, right? Which gets us to the reveal that I was mentioning at the beginning of the episode, because I was reading the show notes. The reason they chose to save the reveal here was because they wanted to have the reveal of the spores be at the same time that Nora we get the reveal that Nora realizes that Ellie is the girl that Joel murdered everyone for to rescue. This scene is absolutely heartbreaking and haunting and terrifying because essentially Nora runs off down through the hallway here and ends up getting infected in her lungs. But Ellie's falling behind, realizing that, oh my God, they're breathing spores, but I'm immune. And finally meets up with Nora, and Nora's coughing to death. And they have this confrontation about, do you know what Joel did? He shot the only person in the world who could have created a cure, and he shot him in the head to get you out of the hospital. And Ellie says, "I know," which means she never knew for sure, but she suspected. Um, and this is like the final confirmation that Joel did that, and she's okay with that. And the realization by Nora at this point is that she's not getting out of this. And Ellie's like, "You need to tell me where Abby is," and Nora doesn't want to. And quick commercial break, everyone, to celebrate and give thanks to all of these amazing people who keep me on the air full time. Really appreciate the support. All you got to do is join as a member. You get access to private videos. You can also do super thanks on any upload or super chats and stickers on any live stream or premiere you see. And beyond that, don't forget we're multi-streaming over on Twitch now, so you can support over there as well. Thanks so much to everybody. Let's get back to the video at hand. Ellie picks up a pipe, which is great because they make it look exactly it's exactly like the pipes from the game, the L-shaped pipe, and she just begins to beat the shit out of Nora and torture her to find out where Abby is. Um, you think that that's the end of the episode, but then they have a quick flashback where she wakes up in bed all smiling and Joel's at the door saying, "Hey, what's up, kiddo?" And then we get faded black and we go to the, which makes me wonder if we're going to get the actual um, dinosaur flashback episode next week. That would be really cool. It would be a nice break between some of the darker stuff we've seen over the past few episodes to have a lighthearted episode where it's all about the interaction between her and Joel and showing that, that birthday moment. So we'll see where they go next week. Um, this episode, like I said, it for me, I'm happy because we're gonna get Tommy back. We're getting back into having Tommy in the picture. Um, we get a little bit more of the Seraphim, of the Scars, to see their radicalism. Um, the fact that Dina is commenting on the fact that the wolves are talking on the radio without any qualms of anyone hearing because and this is where they suspect that it's because the Scars must be living like the Amish because they don't use technology. So that's an interesting kind of story point for the viewer who doesn't know, who hasn't played the game. They don't know what the Seraphim are or what the Scars are. And this gives them a little more insight into the fact that they must be living like, without technology and stuff. So that's good for storytelling purposes and to give a little bit more insight into who they are. But I also really like the fact that in this episode, we just establish that Ellie is becoming Joel, and she's going to be doing dark things and converting into this really dark and horrible individual. And there's also this story that Dina tells of the first person that she killed, which was someone who violated her mom and sibling, and talks about how she would have if things had gone differently, she would have chased that person until the end of the earth to hunt them down and make them pay, which is the cycle of Abby, but also the cycle of Ellie. And so it's showing that this cycle of violence will just only ever continue if that's the way these people continue to think. So it's a little bit of foreshadowing, but it's good for the storytelling purposes because it lets you know that we're going down a dark road because everyone is on a path of vengeance right now, and it's not stopping anytime soon. Um, Great episode. I'm also really excited to see the girl who played Nora because she's going to be in Intergalactic, which is the next game coming from Naughty Dog, which I cannot wait to play when it becomes available. And I can't wait to see her back in action as the main character in the next game from Naughty Dog. Let me know your thoughts on this week's episode. Drop them down in the comments below. Like, subscribe, hit the bell icon so you never miss an update. Daily streams at 5 a.m. Central on YouTube and Twitch. And I watch a lot of different TV shows and films with my wife and review them here on the channel. So hopefully you check out all the other stuff. And I'll see you next time, everybody.